is the Dawat al-Ashira, i.e. the Feast of the Kith and Kin 17. Note Moses also prayed to God to strengthen his back with the help of his brother Aaron, and here the back was strengthened without asking. There is a great identity between Moses and the Holy Prophet. And this has also been prophesied by God in the Old Testament 18. Verse 2. The Vizir means the burden of the apostleship, i.e. ministry 19. AP. Verse 4. This is a prophetic announcement of the mention, or the eminence of the Holy Prophet being raised to glorious heights both in this world and in the hereafter, high above the mention of any one in the world. Bringing into account the salawat, or the salutation, every Muslim is obliged to recite it at least in each of the 5 times daily prayer. There is none in the world to be compared to the Holy Prophet in this regard, for the name of no other apostle of God is mentioned in such abundance. This prophecy was made when the prophet was a solitary figure, not much recognized even by the people of his own place, and when most of the people in his environment were hostile to him. None can correctly enumerate the number of times the Holy Prophet along with his holy al-Bayt is remembered even in a single day of the year. Verse 5. The whole life of the Holy Prophet was of persecution, difficulties and toil, dangers and worries. The repeated statement here is to give emphasis to the promise and its assurance of the ultimate triumph of the cause, even though in the earlier stages the situation was utterly hopeless and the survival of the Holy Prophet, the Muslims and the very name of the faith, Islam, seemed to be an impossibility. By making his name to be mentioned in the azan, the call for prayer, in the tashahhud, in the prayer itself, and in the form of salawat, i.e. the salutation, on him and his al-Bayt wherever his name is mentioned 20. AP. Verse 6. This is in conformity with the first and second verses of the previous chapter. AP. Verse 7. This refers to the instruction to the Holy Prophet, to fix up the one already notified by him at the Dawat al-Ashira, i.e. Ali ibn Abu Talib. See note on verse 2 above and 5:67 in his place. By the time and wording of the verse 5:67 it gets evident that it was the instruction through this verse, i.e. about appointing Ali as his successor, that the Holy Prophet was waiting to execute. The verse 5:67 clearly states, convey that which has already been sent down to thee, i.e. appointment of Ali, the instructions for which had already been received. The concluding words and the tone of the same verse 5:67 show that the matter was of vital importance to the faith, and no further delay in executing the will of the Lord was desirable even under the apprehension of any mischief, for God, in the same verse 5:67 promises to save the Holy Prophet from mischief. The matter was so important and essential to be enacted that at its enactment was declared, the completion or the perfection of Islam is the religion and the perfection of God's bounties. C 5:3. See note in 5:67 which gives the details about the revelation of the verse when the Holy Prophet was at Ghadir come along with the huge number of the pilgrims, on his return from Mecca after performing the last Hajj of his life on earth. This verse is a clear instruction to the Holy Prophet, i.e. to say, when he has completed the work of his ministry, to appoint Ali in his place as the commander or the master of the faithful. This is the most appropriate literal translation of this verse, but the other commentators have given various interpretations, none is appropriate with the context of these 2 chapters. The Holy Prophet has been burdened with the task of conveying the last word of the Lord, or the last divine message to mankind. Here in this early Meccan chapter the Holy Prophet is commanded to prepare himself for another task, more vital than the mere preaching, i.e. the establishment and the perpetuation of the chain of the words of God 28:51, the last link of which he was entrusted with, by nominating the person who would succeed him as a guardian and the exponent of all that he had preached. It was the same duty which the Holy Prophet was commanded to execute in the last chapter revealed to him, in the closing days of his ministry 5:3-67, after the execution of which, verse 5:3 was revealed, after finishing all the tasks referred to in verses 5 and 6, the Holy Prophet has been commanded to return unto the Lord. 1. Should realize how this small chapter of the early Meccan period deals with the most important stages and the different functions which the Holy Prophet had to undergo and to performing of which, is in complete conformity with the last Madanite chapter of the Quran. AP. Verse 8. Fargab, i.e. get inclined, this was the instruction to the Holy Prophet, when he had finished his work as God's apostle, i.e. completed the duties of his ministry, to fix up Ali in his place and then get ready to return. Note the sublime words in which God expresses his will that the Holy Prophet should retire from this world. There is no mention of death. The instructions are to incline himself, i.e. to return to him at his own choice and pleasure, for it is quite evident from this, that death to the Holy Prophet is not as it is to any other mortal, but it is a willing return for which he was eagerly waiting to do. The fact is, that those who fear the retribution for their life deeds, naturally dread death, and for those who are always in communion maintaining their original purity, would naturally long to return to enjoy the bliss, of which, they are sure. 1. Refer to 20:25. Commentary. Verse 1. The names of the things and the events which have been used in the solemn statements in the Holy Quran are mostly symbols of some latent objects, the knowledge of which God has willed to keep it away from the common minds. Teen, i.e. fig, but commentators have given many alternate interpretations which are only conjectures. Ibn Abbas says i.e. the fig stands for the Mosque of Noah, and Zaytun, i.e. the olive, for Jerusalem. Balad al-Amin, i.e. the city of security, city of the trusted one, the Holy Prophet, i.e. Mecca. Fig is known to be the finest, the most wholesome and also the most nutritious fruit, used not only as food but a remedy for several bodily complaints. It is taken as a symbol for man's destiny. In its origin, i.e. in its existence, as a seed, it is full of worms and maggots and insipid in taste, but in its full and healthy growth, it is the best fruit, as said above. Similarly, man when he deteriorates, becomes the lowest of the low, and when he develops or rises, he excels even the angels in excellence. Jesus, coming from Bethany, feeling hungry, went to a fig tree and finding it standing without any fruits, dropping only dry leaves, cursed it, and it immediately withered to its roots. 6. Prophet Jeremiah has also used figs as symbols in comparing the good ones of the Jews to good figs and the bad ones among them to vile ones of the fruit. 7. For the symbol of the olive, see 24:35. Refer the lamp lit by God, it might refer to Jerusalem. See 52:2. In Math. 2:4-3-4. Verses 2 and 3 refer to holy places where from the Word of God, Torah and Quran, were given to the two prominent law-giver prophets, so the fig and the olive in the first verse must appropriately refer to the places where the Word of God was revealed. It is said that Teen is the name of a mountain in Damascus, and Zaytun, another mountain in Palestine. They were named after the fruits that grew on them, and these were the places where Jesus and Moses and the other Israelite prophets used to retire for communion with God. AP. Verse 2. Senin, i.e. Sinai, where the law was given to Moses, see 19:52. And on the Mount Sinai God manifested his glory to Moses and the men who came there asking for the manifestation of God's glory. Verse 3. Balad al-Amin, the city of security, Mecca, where the final word of God, the Holy Quran, had the start of its revelation. But some say, Amin stands for the Holy Prophet, then it will mean the city Mecca where the Holy Prophet, the last apostle of God, was born. The people themselves called the Holy Prophet as Amin. Verse 4. Asan, i.e. the best. Taqweem,